I used to work in an office with someone who no one liked, really. He was kind of loud, a little bit aggressive. He loved telling people why they were wrong. He loved being the skunk at the garden party. He loved saying things like, "I could not disagree more with that." One day, we were all having lunch at a table, and that happened with a coworker, and she got up and walked away from the table in the middle of the meal in tears. And as she walked away, he said, "You know what her problem is? She doesn't like that I'm a prophet. I just say it as it is, and people don't like that." And I found myself thinking, are you sure that's why she doesn't like you? Here's the deal about prophets. No prophet appoints themselves. There's no such thing as a self-appointed prophet. That's always from God. And almost always, if you look at the prophets, they beg God not to choose them. Please don't make me a prophet. Please choose someone other than me. That's true again and again and again. A real prophet is reluctant. If you're talking to someone who's too excited to be a prophet, if they have appointed themselves, that's not a prophet. Jesus is in his hometown for the very first time since giving up carpentry. He didn't want to do that. You remember that he was baptized, and all of a sudden, at age 30, his life changed like that. No more carpentry, no more playing it small. It's time for you, God said, to step into who you are and what you're called to do. So he shows up in his hometown, the same guy, but now he's, as we say, a priest, a prophet, and a king. Why would anyone be reluctant to have all of that glory? Well, if we're paying attention, it's because 5 minutes into the story, they try to throw him off a cliff. Literally, they want to kill him. The reason prophets are reluctant is because the cost of being a prophet is high. You don't get to determine the message that you're sharing. It's given to you by God. And it's often an unpopular message. When we hear Jesus saying a prophet is always rejected in his hometown, that's because God always chooses a hometown person to be the prophet to their own people. The prophet is always within the family, within the religion, or within the country that needs to be reformed. That's how God does it. So I can tell you that if God ever chooses to breathe more life into the Catholic Church, if God wants to reform our church in any way, God will not send a Muslim to do it. It'll be a Catholic. It'll be someone within the religion that reforms it. Same thing is true. If God wishes to reform Islam, it won't be us. Not one of us will be chosen for that job. It'll be a Muslim. You're always sent to your own people. You know, that's true in every situation of prophets. It was not another country that Nelson Mandela was called to worry about. Nelson Mandela wasn't given a call to reform racism in another country. It was in South Africa, his own country. And so that's another thing for us to consider when it comes to understanding prophets. We are never going to be called to reform Canada. If there's ever a time that we are called to work on a country that God wants to shape, it'll be the USA. Because we're always sent to our own people and to our own hometown. And if you're thinking about that and the gears are turning, you know why nobody wants to be a prophet. Because guess what they call you if you try to reform your own family? A traitor. If you try to reform your own religion, a heretic. If you try to reform your own country, you know, that's never going to be popular. So we're hearing the content of what Jesus said to his people in his hometown. God wanted his people to know, it is true that you are the chosen people. I have chosen you. But you are misinterpreting what that means. So I'm going to send my son to make it clearer. And here's what Jesus says. My friends, there were lots of hard times during the last famine. But God did not choose to give us the food, but gave it to the woman in Sidon. There was a lot of leprosy. There was a pandemic of leprosy here in our community. But God didn't heal one of us. God healed a Syrian. That's all it took. He said that to the chosen people, and they were so angry, they wanted to kill him. He wasn't saying it because it was his message. He wasn't saying it to hurt them. But that's what makes being a prophet so hard. The two trademarks for a true prophet are that you are reluctant to do it, and that the message that you are given comes from a place of love. It's not always easy to hear, but it doesn't come from your own agenda. It comes from a place of love. Have you ever felt like someone was trying to fix you? Like they were trying to get you to see things the right way? Most of us have had that experience. There's been a lot of that tension in our world in the past little while too, where everyone has got their own websites that they go to. And they're here to get you straightened out. You're all wrong, and I'm here to straighten you out. And you know why you back away from those people. It doesn't feel good. Because in many cases, it's not coming from a place of love. You can't pretend or cover that up. If it's coming from a place of love, even if it's hard to hear, it has a totally different tone, a totally different quality than if it's coming from a self-appointed prophet. The prophets that we need to listen to are going to tell us things that are hard to hear, but it's going to be coming from a place of love, and they're not going to want to do it. They're going to be hitting the nail a little too much on the head for us, and they're going to know it, and it's going to make them cringe, but they can't not do it. That's why that first reading is so beautiful, because God called Jeremiah to a really hard job. If you know the history of the Israeli people, the time that Jeremiah was coming into was right before a catastrophe, and he was their last best hope. And it was going to be terrible trying to get through to them. But he said, I can't do this, God. I need you to take this burden away from me. And God said, I'm going to turn you into a pillar of brass. I'm going to make you iron. You're going to be filled with my spirit. I'm not going to leave you out there to hang. I'm going to have your back. And that is what every prophet has as their consolation. The great poet Maya Angelou said that the thing a prophet always has to rely on is knowing and making sure that they are on God's side of an issue, that they are true to the call God has given them. And then she said, if that's true, even if everyone else in the world is against them, even if they're standing all on their own, as long as God is on their side, they're in the majority. If the whole world, 8 billion people, is against me, but God is standing beside me, I'm in the majority. God plus me equals the majority. So let us be brave as we consider the ways that God could call any one of us to be a prophet. Let us know that God would never call us to something that God's not prepared to equip us for. And let us be aware that it won't be an easy job if it comes. but that God, plus me, alone, is the majority.